The content of this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended as, nor should it be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. Hello, this is Karen Nickel, family nurse practitioner, and you are listening to Itchy and Bitchy, a podcast that provides answers to your many unanswered health questions. Did you know that heavy metal exposure can cause your ovaries to poop out on you? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, I want to remind you about my course called The Perimenopause Answer. If you're going through this phase of life called perimenopause, I would love to have the opportunity to talk to you about the course to see if it's the right fit for you. There is a link on our website, itchyandbitchy.com, and our Facebook page, IMB Podcast, where you can schedule an appointment for a Zoom call with me. I know I have said this over and over and over again, but this is a Zoom call with me. It is not a webinar. So when you make an appointment, I will be sitting at my little desk waiting for you to join the one-on-one Zoom call. Now, back to those little ovaries. Heavy metal exposure may be linked to earlier menopause in middle-aged women, a new study finds. Before we get into that study, I want to talk to you about anti-Müllerian hormone, or AMH. If you have undergone infertility treatment, you likely know about this hormone, but for others, this may be very new to you. AMH levels correspond to the number of eggs you have in your ovaries, or basically your ovarian reserve. High AMH levels mean there are more eggs in the ovary, and lower AMH levels mean there are fewer eggs in the ovary. AMH is a simple blood test that can tell you the number of remaining eggs, approximately, that you have and whether your ovaries might be aging too quickly. It may reveal that your time is running out if you're trying to get pregnant. An AMH test may also let your fertility provider know how well you may respond to injectable fertility drugs to stimulate your ovaries to mature multiple eggs for in vitro fertilization, IVF. AMH cannot predict your fertility with or without treatments or when you'll go into menopause. Also, keep in mind that even if your AMH levels are in the typical range, there are other factors that may influence your ability to conceive, such as age, medical conditions, smoking, sperm count and motility, not ovulating regularly, blocked fallopian tubes, pelvic scarring, endometriosis, and uterine abnormalities like fibroids. Okay, now we can talk about this new research that was just published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. The study found that women with higher levels of heavy metals in their urine were likely to have hormone levels that indicate diminished ovarian reserve. It is the first study that shows that heavy metals, especially cadmium, arsenic, and mercury, are linked with lower levels of anti-Müllerian hormone and linked to a faster decline in AMH in middle-aged women. So when AMH is decreasing, it indicates that the ovaries are aging. So how can heavy metals impact AMH levels and ovarian aging, for goodness sake? Well, according to the lead researcher, heavy metals can affect ovarian aging in several ways, including disrupting hormone balance and leading to imbalances in the endocrine system. Heavy metals are considered endocrine disruptors, or endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs. And EDCs are substances that can mimic, block, or interfere with the body's hormone and endocrine system, impacting various aspects of health, including fertility. There can be naturally occurring disruptors like phytoestrogens in soy, but more often these disruptors are synthetic chemicals that are found in plastics, packaging, pesticides, a bunch of P words, and other sources. On other episodes, I have talked about how petroleum products, more P words, I have talked about how petroleum products mimic estrogen and cause hormone imbalances. Petroleum is an endocrine disruptor. In terms of heavy metals as a disruptor, the theory is that heavy metals can lead to more oxidative stress and free radicals. Those are things that we do not want, that decrease ovarian follicles and decrease anti-Mullerian hormone production, all leading to ovarian aging. Additionally, women who are close to menopause are more sensitive to free radical exposure because they already have very few eggs remaining in those ovaries. Darn it. If a woman wants to know more about their ovarian reserve or remaining egg count, you can have a simple blood test to check AMH levels. Keep in mind, though, that if you are on hormones like hormonal birth control, the AMH level may appear lower than it actually is. You can easily buy an AMH test in stores or online. I mostly see them online. At-home AMH tests typically require a finger prick blood sample. Pretty easy. While home tests are convenient and easy, if you are dealing with infertility and you haven't been seen by a provider to address this, it's best to see a specialist to help you interpret those results. And fertility is a complex issue and requires a comprehensive expert evaluation. If you are having periods, you can have this test done any time in the month because AMH is a stable hormone. It doesn't fluctuate like estrogen and progesterone does in a cycling woman. After this break, I'll review the possible sources of heavy metal exposure that we all should do our best to avoid. Welcome back. There are still a lot of unknowns about heavy metal exposure, including how much is safe. So it's best to avoid exposure as much as possible. Heavy metals can enter your body in different ways. You might consume them in the food you eat or water you drink, or absorb them through your skin. Here's how you might be exposed to various heavy metals. Keep in mind that heavy metal poisoning occurs with heavy or frequent exposure, usually over a long period of time. Occasional exposure won't typically lead to heavy metal poisoning. So, ways that we can be exposed to arsenic includes working near a hazardous waste site, living in an area that has high arsenic levels in rocks, water, and soil, ingesting insecticides, pesticides, or herbicides. This is why eating organic can be so important. Also, eating contaminated seafood or algae, drinking contaminated water. You might be surprised by this next one. Rice. I know it's surprising. Why is there arsenic in rice? Well, when they're growing, rice plants take in more arsenic than other plants do. The plants absorb the arsenic from the soil, from the irrigation water when it is grown in the flooded fields, and from farming chemicals that used to be used in rice fields. To avoid ingesting too much arsenic, you can look for rice from regions that have rice lower in arsenic. White and brown basmati rice from California, India, and Pakistan, and sushi rice and brown rice from the U.S. may have less arsenic than other types of rice. Brown rice is lower in arsenic than white rice. It is also important to vary your grains so you're not eating rice every day. Lower arsenic grains include amaranth, quinoa, bulgur, and farro. Many snack foods contain rice. Check the labels of your favorite snacks, and if they are made with rice, rice flour, or rice syrup, mix in some snacks in your diet that don't contain rice. People who are eating a gluten-free diet often eat a lot of rice products. To avoid gluten and lower the amount of arsenic in your diet, include other grains like millet, quinoa, amaranth, buckwheat, corn, oats, and flax. And just remember that with oats, you want to make sure you find oats that are labeled gluten-free because they're not processed in the same manufacturing plant as wheats or where wheats are processed. Also, you can decrease the arsenic in rice by cooking it like pasta. Use 6 times more water than rice versus your normal 1.5 to 2 times more water than rice, and drain the water after cooking. Ways that you can be exposed to cadmium include working in an industrial setting, especially one where ore is processed or smelted, welding on alloys that contain cadmium or use silver solders, working in battery manufacturing. Now, this last one is a little more common than the first 3, but inhaling cigarette smoke or smoking e-cigarettes. Ways you can be exposed to lead include living in a home with high levels of lead-based paint, doing industrial construction work, being in gun firing ranges, using kohl cosmetics, kohl spelled K-O-H-L. Kohl has been used in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa for eyeliner. This substance can contain lead. It is banned in the U.S., so even eyeliners that are called kohl eyeliners, K-O-H-L eyeliners, and I've seen them labeled that way, should not contain kohl. Another one is applying progressive hair dyes, which contain lead acetate. Progressive hair dyes are those that you apply daily until you achieve the desired level of color in the hair. The FDA finally banned the use of lead acetate in progressive hair dyes in 2021, not that long ago, and they have been trying to get it banned in the U.S. since 1990. So Grecian formula, which is an example of progressive hair dye that a lot of us know because of advertisements, the Grecian formula no longer contains lead acetate, but it is not clear if other brands have removed the ingredient. So be careful or just avoid using progressive hair dyes. But if you have to use them, check the label, make sure it doesn't contain lead acetate. Ways that we can be exposed to mercury include mining, producing, or transporting mercury, mining and refining gold and silver ores. Now, most of us aren't out there mining. I actually don't even personally know a miner. So those might not be really common risk factors, but the next one is more common, and that is consuming contaminated fish. A major source of mercury is predatory fish. The older and larger the fish, the greater the potential for high levels of mercury. And this is because when predatory fish consume smaller varieties, they accumulate methyl mercury in their tissues. You can be exposed to mercury through consuming contaminated water. Also, if you work in a manufacturing facility that manufactures mirrors, X-ray machines, incandescent lights, or vacuum pumps, you may be exposed to mercury. Other sources of exposure include pollution, industrial sources, and environmental factors. These are the factors that we have difficulty avoiding because they're all around us. In addition to avoiding the known exposures I've just reviewed, you can also make wise dietary choices like avoiding processed foods and eating organic food. You can use a water filter and check the product you're buying to make sure that it will filter heavy metals. You can eat a diet rich in antioxidants. Studies have shown specific antioxidants, including resveratrol, quercetin, and curcumin, can be particularly beneficial in protecting against oxidative stress and slowing ovarian aging. It's important to make these changes as soon as possible to reap the benefits for your overall health and well-being, as well as your ovarian health. Thank you for listening and for sharing the podcast with others. If you listen using Apple Podcast app, please leave a review and rate the podcast. Your reviews and ratings matter. I encourage you to visit our Facebook page, IMB Podcast, where you can leave comments or questions for me. Our website is itchyandbitchy.com, where there are blogs with some of our subjects available for you to read. On the Facebook page and website, we have the information about how to schedule an appointment with me. Again, it's not a webinar, so we can chat about how my perimenopause course can help you if you are going through this phase in life. As always, thanks to Forrest Wenzel, our producer and composer of our theme music, and the person who does all the behind-the-scenes work to make this podcast possible. Have safe travels this week, Forrest. Check out his album called An Awful Lot. Go to wherever you stream your favorite music to listen. And if you don't know where to stream music, you can find the album on Apple Music or Spotify. And remember, your health is in your hands.